Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, dark romance, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And here's your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Yep, and going forward from here, of course, there's going to be lots of spoilers for Eldritch by Kerri Lake. This is book 2 of the Eating Woods trilogy. Book 3, Vesmora, is not out yet and will be out yet later this year. And book 1, which we already covered, Anathema, is tied into our coverage tonight as well. So yeah, consider this your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
All right, tonight's drink of the episode, Michelle and I partnered on this because normally I kind of take this over, but then I thought to myself, I need some help here because it gets dark. And I know everyone's totally shocked by that because we've only mentioned it, I think, every episode of this entire series so far, that it gets dark. But I wanted to point one thing out that Kerri mentions and then it kind of like gets forgotten. And I'm wondering if it's going to come up at some other point later, which is where our drink of the episode comes in. So tonight we are going to have to look at our map and also go back to what we're going to cover in today's episode. So that's going to be chapter 61, which we'll get there eventually, but we haven't gotten there quite yet. We're going to go through 53 to 69 today. We have one more episode of Eldritch, but that brings us to our drink, which is the Hadrona. Okay. So there's this Hadrona River. It's called the Misty Hadrona River. And Kerri Lake has us kind of going through this journey, and we're going to talk about that more in this episode. But specifically, it's mentioned that drinking the water of this river is known to cause madness due to parasitic activity that's in the water. And so, like, of course, you know, Maveth is like, what the heck's a parasite? Like, they don't know like this level of biology or science in this world. So he's talking, and Corwin, one of the characters, is just kind of going through talking about this. And so Alasia is like, what's a parasite? And they're talking about how it infects the brain. And so it's a very brief moment in the book, but I also thought to myself, this is like a white, cloudish looking river. So anyway, here we are. The Misty Hadrona River is our drink of the episode tonight, and it consists of gin, cherry liqueur, lychee syrup, and it's topped with a lime seltzer water. At the bottom of it, like you're finding something at the bottom, is a cherry right at the base of the glass, which I thought was kind of fun. And
That's
it
fun.
looks kind of eerie if you look at it. Yeah. So it has this like, now that we know what this does, yeah, bottom is up, right? Everybody wants a drink of this. The parasitic worm drink. Fun. Great. Book Club After Dark always has a good time. Cheers. So
Here's
let's
to
try it
madness.
out. Yes. It's actually super good. I would order this out. The
Ooh.
gin, you can't even taste the gin with between the cherry liqueur and the lychee syrup and the lime seltzer water. You can't taste the gin. It blends really, really nicely, very smooth. This is a delicious drink. So, you know, we'll see how the episode goes after this, given
Parasitic
the
water was onto something.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So yeah, of all of our Eldritch drinks, I wanted to pick one that was kind of ambiguous and related to the book in a way that maybe we just haven't discovered yet, especially with Vesmora around the corner. And we know that Kerri doesn't really just like throw things in frivolously. So maybe there's something here, maybe there isn't, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We'll
so
see.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. You'd like this one, Michelle. It's good. You've got your water bottle. Very nice.
I got my emotional support water.
Emotional support out of water. Yeah. All right. So tonight we're going to be diving back in, of course, to Eldritch by Kerri Lake. We're going to be talking about chapters 53 through 69. We're also going to be doing our Down the Rabbit Hole segment, where we're going to talk about something a little bit different and romantasy as seen in the real world. And can we top it? What am I talking about? We don't know yet, but we're going to talk about it in our Down the Rabbit Hole. Michelle's like, what? And then we're going to wrap up with Mystery Q&A, followed by, last but not least, by the time that this episode airs, our offer that we had put on social media will have closed. So we'll talk a little bit about that more towards the end of the episode, but that's going to cover tonight's episode. So let's get into our high-level details, starting with Eldritch chapter 53. Where are we at, Michelle? Tell us.
Right. So chapter 53 is Mavis' perspective. And this is right after, obviously, chapter 52, but it's right after Mavis had met her mother. So she's like in the pews still, like in the church, kind of like, she just met her mother. And then she's just hearing some shit upstairs because, yeah, there's always something going on. And she runs up there. She's like, what's going on? Savander's having like a massive hallucination in his room. He's like flipping out.
He's not well.
And
Yeah.
no, it's getting worse and worse. And usually she's able to like bring him back like pretty quickly. And this time he goes full attack mode on her. Like it gets to the point where he pins her to the wall by the neck. And Rayvox is Rayvox is a big, you don't realize how
He's a
big
big
he
boy.
is. But like they're like upstairs in like this 2-story church, and Raybox's like eye is like peering through the window. Like, I will come it through this window if you put a hand on her. And Maeve the entire time is like, no, don't kill him. And Raybox is like, what?
I won't.
He's literally
Yeah.
trying to kill you. But okay. And then like he literally like flaps away and like does like this like temper tantrum, which I love.
Yeah.
Raybox has like his own little sassy personality.
We love a pet. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And Zavander eventually comes back to reality, and he's like obviously like feeling guilty. He like put a knife to her neck and actually like nicked some. But maybe it's like her undying love for him and unwavering understanding of him is like beyond normal comprehension. Because a normal person would be like, this is way too much. But we are not in a normal world here. So why not just have like a man
and we've got some
sees
serious
things.
trauma.
She also sees the dead. So, they're both going through it. And but it gets really quickly from like, oh, you almost killed me, but to like, I want to fuck you, like real quick, like in this chapter. And like Maeve like wants to act on those feelings, and Zavander's like, no, I don't want to. And she eventually coerces him to like be okay with it because he doesn't want to hurt her. But she's like, I'm a big girl. But, so they have their spicy time. But the way it's described, because remember, he has 10 piercings and she only gets 2 piercings. And the way I'm like, 2? How much is 2? If this is like the most amazing thing she's experienced, because, she gets her stuff. She gets her due, but it's only 2 piercings. I'm like, where are the 2 piercings? How far apart are the 2 piercings? And with the 10, like, I have lots of questions here. Like, are they
You're trying to do the math?
Or are they like half an inch? Couple like what is?
It's a fantasy
it's enough.
world, Michelle.
It's enough. Apparently, it's enough when you have a forearm.
Like a fantasy world. So
I need to visual. I'm a visual learner, and sometimes it doesn't work in these scenarios. But she gets.
I think that you should do spicy time henceforth, because I feel like there's some struggle bus happening here, and I'm here for it. I'm like enjoying listening to you.
I'm like trying to like describe it without being like outright describing it. Oh,
yeah, we know.
But yeah, but
picking it up.
She gets 2 piercings. He gets like 5 scratch marks because she's like digging her little claws into him.
Claw things and
her claw things.
Remember, guys, she's got this like magic claw hand thingy, Raybox thingy. Yeah,
it's a different claw than what you find in The Kiss of the Basilisk. It's a different type of claw.
Oh boy! For those who have read Kiss of the Basilisk, you know what we're talking about. If you haven't, it's up to you if you really want to go down that road. I wouldn't say that you have to read it if you have the time.
It's an experience. It's
something.
It's definitely an experience for sure. Yes. After spicy time is back time. Yeah. Scrub a dub, share some wine in the tub. And then
I'm going to help you out here, Michelle, and I'm going to help you out with this. And I'm just going to tell you one of the most highlighted quotes of this entire book comes out of chapter 53. There is a quote in here from Zavander that has 3,586 highlights, and I think we should mention it. and I'll let
Okay.
you recap the rest of the episode. I'm going to say, I would call you the soft glow of moonlight in a pitch black world. A prayer I never spoke aloud, but somehow the gods answered anyway. The strike of lightning I dare to behold without flinching. His brow flickered as he ran his thumb over my bottom lip. The reason I breathe. So she tells him, "You're the reason that I breathe." This in this moment. So this is from Mavis speaks this point of view. And then some of the highlights I have, I'm gonna let you finish the chapter, and then I'm gonna tell you some of the highlights I had from this specific chapter that were like really deeply moving to me, because even though we're getting this spicy time and it's awkward and it's strange with the two piercing things and like, all of that, there is some really nice language that they use with each other here that
Sure.
I thought was worth mentioning.
No, for sure. They definitely have their intimate moment gets deeper because this is where like Mavis is like, wow, I'm like in love with you. Like this is where it's
Unintended.
kind of all like yeah. Yeah.
It
But
was too easy.
so Zavander, okay, so back to like the chapter. We're rounding out the chapter. Zavander, while they're in the tub, is
Hmm.
telling Mavis like that Theron guy, you remember that guy? He's like in the vault somewhere. And maybe we should bond him to Alasia. And Mavis like, what? You just wanted to kill him. And he's like, well, that might be our best bet. So he's locked away in the vault, like, plan B, whatnot. And then they make plans to head up to the mountains because that's where they have to get the Vivicantum directly from the vein. So they're like, let's go to the mountains. And we go on our little journey, but they have to sleep a little bit. So that rounds out the
Yes, they gotta
chapter.
get some rest. Rounds out the
Mhm.
chapter. But some of the highlights I did were from chapter 53. Personally, highlights that I had was one from Zavander that says, "You're the fragile thread anchoring me as this endless night approaches," he said raggedly against my lips. "My mind's only tether in a maddening abyss," which really I thought, thank you for that visual, Michelle.
For those in the
Uh,
audio, did not see what I did.
oh,
Just
God.
like
Just go ahead and explain
talking
it.
against. Oh God, it's too late. Oh, my mind's delirious right now. She says against your lips. He's literally having a full conversation pressed up against her mouth, and it's gonna be muffled like this.
Yeah, it's like the
I
quote
can't.
where it's like, "I smiled with my lower teeth." Like, you did what? Yeah, exactly.
It sounds good
Okay,
on
here's
page.
another one. Here's another one. "My obsession knows no bounds, Moon Witch. I'd tear apart the heavens and sacrifice my own soul for you." Okay, that one I like.
Yeah,
It's a good one. I like that one.
we love a
And then she
possessive shadow daddy.
responds, "I would never ask you to sacrifice your soul for me." And then he says, "You don't have to ask. It was yours the moment fate seared your name into it."
And we just get I love you.
Heavy. No, we can't. We can't
So
get it,
heavy.
Michelle. No, we cannot have "I love you."
No, I'm just
That's
saying
the whole thing. Is
we in the
like,
mortal world, we
oh,
in the
oh, oh.
mortal
You're
world
doing the
just
thing of
get
like
I
he
love
just says "I
you.
love you," but Zavan,
Yes.
your name is on my eternal soul, like NBD. Your name is carved into my eternal soul.
Yeah.
Who wants "I love you" after that? I mean,
Yeah, I know. That's what we're
there's
stuck
no
with.
like
So
actually that's a good topic to bring us into later when we're going to talk about our down the rabbit hole. We'll get there. All
she
right,
also
chapter
gets a new
54.
nickname. Wait. Before chapter 54, in chapter 53, she also gets her new nickname because they transition to like more of like deeply in love. And I know I'm going to completely butch the pronunciation, but it's like Amishkala. It's like my love. Instead of like
Mm-hmm.
Luminesca, she gets Amishkala now.
Nice. Anyway, now that we have multiple nicknames we can't pronounce, cheers. Chapter 54, Zavander. All right, we're back in the past because again, we're still bouncing all over the place. Again, I still like that about this book. I think if it hadn't bounced all over the place, yes, it would be a shorter book, but we also needed the depth of Zavander's character. I will be taking no opinions other than that at this time. Thank you for sharing anyway, but this book is still
Been
highly
missed.
underrated. Moving on. So, unfortunately, he's now in bed with Lois. So you go from this chapter of this like loving, beautiful thing and beautiful situation happening with his mate and his destiny and all of this, and my soul is literally tied to yours, to chapter 54, the next chapter. He's in bed with Lois, who's his absolute abuser and who is sick. He has been held prisoner now at this point in time for decades, and a Colossian soldier comes up to him with this message. Mercenaries were sent to Eidolon Castle, which again is Savander's castle where he's from, and only one escaped, and it was because Branmere was protecting Rakaya. So there was a goal to get his sister and kill her and make sure that he still continued to feel pain at this point. So right now we know Rakaya was still alive and that there was a deliberate attempt on his sister's life. So Zavander's like now wants to kill the one mercenary who did escape, and Lois is like, "Well, I'll give you this prisoner to kill, but you need to bond with me. Like you need to make a choice
Ugh.
to bond to me." Because at this point he still hasn't, there's this idea of the physical body and giving yourself over like in a sexual way. And then there's this idea of giving yourself over in a like spiritual and consensual way that goes beyond just the physical flesh. And so this is what Lois is getting at, is that she wants this bond. Of course, he refuses. And she brings the prisoner in anyway to torment him and questions this prisoner. So the prisoner, or the person who's telling all this, is saying that, yeah, his mother didn't make it and that Rakaya was tortured and tormented, but Lois ends up killing this person before we can find out who actually ordered the hit on Mom. So we only know, and his sister actually too. We know that there's 12 mercenaries. We just don't know who actually ordered this to happen. So that's kind of left hanging in chapter 54.
And chapter 55 is Zavander again, and we're in Caligoria. So Zavander is looking for his mother and sister, obviously, after having just experienced what he did. And then he finds Alistor, who's basically like a carcass. Like he's in like these woods, and he finds like, yeah, he's a carcass, essentially. It's gross. And she basically, Alistor shows him his family who's just been attacked. And what's weird is Branimir senses Zavander. He like kind of perks up. He can't see Zavander, but he senses him there, which has me thinking, because obviously Alistor and Zavander have, Alistor slash Cadavros and Zavander have like this bond, but Alistor also tried to do the same thing with Branimir and that didn't work. So what experiences has Branimir have? What does Branimir know? How close is the connection as all three of them for him having to be able to sense him in Caligoria without like Zavander actively trying to reach out to him. And then this is where Zavander actually realizes that Alistor is Cadavros. And if Zavander dies, so does Cadavros. And that's why Cadavros has been keeping him alive throughout this entire centuries of, or decades of torture at this point in time. So we get more of why he's doing this, why this is happening. And it's really just a slap in the face to Zavander. Like, I listened to the audiobook for this, and he's like screaming at
Which,
Alistor.
do we like the audiobook for Eldritch? Are we happy with it?
I like that audiobook. I've always liked the
Okay.
audiobook. The one thing I don't like about the audiobook is Casimir's voice is fucking annoying. And
Oh,
it's the same guy, but he also like
the voice he does for him.
yes,
Hmm.
for it's like not whiny, but it's the tone. I don't like that. I just
Hmm.
didn't like it. You'll have to listen to it. And Revezio, he has like more of like a smooth accent because he's from like a different part of Etheria. So all of them have different accents. I understand you like run out of accents, but Casimir being like the main one, he has his whole chapters. You're gonna give him the worst voice ever. Okay. So yeah, Casimir's annoyed me. That
Okay,
that was
we've
my
got
only issue.
feelings.
I
Okay.
have a lot of feelings. Every time he talked, I'm like, "Oh my god, are these chapters going to end?"
I'm
Just
just,
I enjoyed reading them more than him
yeah.
talking. So, and I don't
Okay.
know how intentional out I mean, obviously it was intentional, but I was just like, we couldn't have picked just a different voice for Casimir. Isn't he supposed to
Yeah.
be like important? I thought he was going to
Mm.
be like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah,
We
that
have
was
one
my
more book,
only
Michelle.
issue. I know we do have one more book. I wonder if he's still gonna have a POV in that book.
We have one more book,
Uh,
Michelle.
we have one more book.
So, on that note, what I want to point out too on this chapter and just remembering Caligoria in general is that Zavander chose to go to his house, his home in his mind, and Branmere feels him live. This is really important to talk to the level of power that Zavander has built up over time in controlling Caligoria. Kind of attuned to Stranger Things, where Eleven can kind of like pick and choose where she wants to go once she goes under, and she's like in her like a version of Caligoria in the sense that she goes into her mind's eye and like this black water stuff and room. She's walking around and you can open up different things or parts of the mind or real places. I kind of imagine Caligoria in the same way every time I
Yeah.
think about it. And so chapter, while important about the Cadavros piece, of course, and like the reveals we're starting to get towards the end of this book, also speaks to Zavander's power and the risk that Alistair took by bringing Zavander in that he's starting to realize himself may have been a bad idea. And we already saw this kind of build for some time now. We've already started to see that Zavander has shown in Caligoria multiple times over that he's significantly stronger than Cadavros, and that presents a massive risk to Alistair or Cadavros' ability to hold power. And we're going to see more of that and how that plays out in future chapters. But chapter 56, we start with Zavander's point of view. So now already in this episode, we've bounced from multiple timelines. Now we're back in Zavander's point of view, which we're back in the, present time with Maveth. And he's watching Maveth sleep. And then he finds a man that was sent supposedly to kill Maveth. And so remember before there was this whole vote with Stockton Crane and if she should die and all of this in our previous episode. And so Zavander's like, I'll just kill him and throw him with the other villagers, NBD, as he does. And then he's like, yeah, just don't ever try this again. Like, it's just not a good idea. You should no, it's not a good idea. And then he's like, let me go down and check on Theron, right? Remember this guy? Yes, let's go check on our friend who we thought we killed, who also we know from our past, who also is now in this cell while I'm also not having my Vivicantum and don't know what's going on. But let's go check on him. And he's still screaming in his vault, which ends up bringing up a memory for Zavander leading into chapter 57.
So that 57 is Zavander past. Now, a lot happens here because this is where we see really the betrayal that Theron had. So Zavander's doing 3,000 push-ups because he needs to get he needs to keep himself moving ultimately, and that's what he can do. And Theron's just sitting there watching him. And Theron tells him about Torrin, which we know Torrin is one of the Latali, and he shows up into the mines a complete badass because he ripped off an Orgoth's head. Remember the Orgoth from the very beginning that Zavander had a
what's a Latalis? Don't forget to tell our audience. Let's remind
Oh
them
yes,
because we haven't talked about the Latalis in a hot
we
minute.
haven't. We haven't. The Latalis are the assassins. So the guys that are hired to kill Zavander, Casimir,
Zavander's
Fabrizio.
one, Casimir, all the besties. This is how they met.
Yes.
The besties.
They meet in the deepest trauma, which kind of explains why they're assassins. So it adds up. It does. And Torrin just rips an Orgoth's head off. These are these big, massive ogre things. Rips his head off. No big deal.
Yeah.
And
Loader
he had ended.
I see them as those big ones in Mordor, Lord of the Rings style. Yeah.
Yep.
Keep it
going. Torrin had killed a few Salatian guards, and he's in prison for it because, of course, and he's given them hell, which as he should. So as he's doing these push-ups, Lois is like, Zavander, come here. He, at this point, it's been 80 years because he has 8 piercings. So this is how the timeline, how Kerri,
each decade he gets one.
Yeah. So Kerri Lake kind of timestamps it because of this. King Jarrett had summoned Zavander and trying to bring him back for whatever reason. Apparently he's been trying to do this for a long time up until this point, but he's trying to get him back, and he finally bribed Sagarin enough to petition for his release. And Lois is like,
Now, Hold on. King Jared is king of where, and King Sagarin is king of where?
King Sagarin is the Salatian king. King
Correct.
Jarrett is Zavander's king. Though it's the king that Zavander works for.
Yes.
Yes.
Recall our
Map is important
anyway.
when these kings
Map is important.
come up.
Yes.
So I
Continue.
know Lois is freaking out, and I know you haven't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, but
The
as
Avatar: The Last Airbender has come up so many times in this show over the course of the time we filmed, and I'm like,
listen,
apparently I really need to watch this,
it's
or because
young
you've
millennial
brought it up
core.
countless time. I'm like, all right,
Okay,
got
so
it. And
like
it's not Avatar like the big blue people. This is
no,
something
not the
else,
blue. This
right?
is the Airbender, the arrow. Put my hand there, the arrow boy, and they're making a movie of it, and they've are doing like a new cartoon movie. I know they made the live action, which kind of bombed with M. Night Shyamalan, and then they did the TV show. Netflix has a TV show that's actually really good. That's more like adult based, but in
Where should I
the
start?
cartoon, the old cartoon. That's
Oh,
what.
okay, okay.
Yes, of
Okay,
course, the
keep
old
going.
cartoon. But
What
anyways,
was I
okay,
thinking?
so there's
Yeah.
the main sister. The sister is like evil, essentially. And once she starts losing her power, she literally has like a freak out and cuts all of her hair and starts like screaming and throwing shit and like just complete freak out. So if you have watched Avatar, this is a Zulon or Zula. And Lois is essentially like just throwing shit, having a temper
Oh,
tantrum because they're taking Zavander away from her, and that has been her plaything. And
yeah.
she's
She
like
wants to bond to
begging
him.
him. Yeah, exactly.
Freaking psycho.
She is. And she's like begging him like not to take his freedom. Like, bitch, what? I'm sorry. And he's like, "No, I'm going to go be free. You can't do anything to stop me." And she like
Yeah.
tries to stab him, and he like stops her.
Her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Her.
And as he's
She's.
leaving, she like throws wine at him. I'm like, "Oh my god." She's yeah, temper tantrum.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, why wouldn't you want to stay with me? Hasn't this been fun? Like, what are you talking about?"
And she's like, "I've been nice to you. I've been nice. I could have been way worse." It's like, girl, what? Like, I
No, she's
don't.
psychotic.
The Delulu, I cannot.
Which,
like,
no, straight up psychotic. Yeah.
so Zavander is like washed and dressed, so he's like presented to the king. And Lois tells King Jarrett that Zavander can slip into Caligoria. Who told her that? Theron.
Aaron
Because Theron
is the only
is a
one who
bitch.
knew.
Punk ass
Yep.
bitch. That's what he
Mhm.
is. He ratted Zavander out, saying that he can slip into Caligoria without Vivicantum, and you know that elixir stuff that he's been slipping Zavander occasionally? Yeah, it's Vivicantum. So Lois proposes to the king, King Sagarin, that they should use Zavander because obviously he's chosen by the gods, and a king should use what is chosen by the gods. And the king agrees, like, yeah, Jarrett had offered me 10,000 Nixtorosi men because they need defenses. And he's like, nah, that's okay. 10,000's not enough. And he sends Zavander back to Lois. And the way I was like, no. Well, I knew, like,
Yeah.
reading, I'm like, okay, we're only at 80 years.
At eight,
Yeah, he's
80
not getting.
years.
Yeah, he has 2 more decades to go through. But I was just like, oh, Theron, you
It's
bitch.
devastating.
Oh,
Yeah.
awful. Lock him in the vault.
Can you imagine? Like, he gets to go get washed and clean, and like, he thinks he's going to be free.
Yeah.
That pause where he like goes and gets cleaned up and comes back to finally be like actually released after he had this whole standoff with her, and then ultimately still gets sent back to his captor is just crippling. I remember reading
Yeah.
this and just being like, I was holding my breath for him to get out, even though I knew, even though she tells us that it's only 8, I still was like, maybe you get the other 2 some other way. Like, I don't know. I was just hoping,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we knew. Yeah. Well, your favorite audio is coming up next in chapter 58. We're going to Casimir. So let's get ready. So he's
I need
dreaming.
to play it for you.
We'll have to. So he's dreaming and he's in darkness. And he's walking through this like heavily forested area. He's tripping over and this spider comes and attacks him. And he's like, what the fuck? And so he wakes up and Dravian is actually like silencing the scream he's having because he was screaming in his sleep. Like he was actually screaming in real life. And so they're in this tavern because why not? In
I'm like, wait. You two are sharing a
sleeping
drink,
in a tent.
and this guy is just like next to you,
Asleep.
like in.
Yes, yes. And so Dravian had saved Kaz from this bite, and then these Colossian soldiers are nearby. So when I'm thinking you're like having a snooze in the pub, I'm thinking like it's not a packed pub, but not in this case. He like fell asleep because they've been like on the road traveling. And the Colossian soldiers come nearby, and General Lois and another Bellatrix, which is part of that group, is Melantha. And if you remember who Melantha is, we've heard about her
It's
before.
been a minute. It's
Um,
been a minute.
been a minute, but we know who she is. And so General Lois is with Melantha, and they walk into this pub. And Dravian believes that they're like trying to rally an army, like get soldiers to join their cause. And the city doesn't have any spindlings, which, remember correctly, they are people without magical ability or without access to Vivicantum for long periods of time, and therefore have lost magical ability. So it's believed that the Colossian soldiers are trying to like rally people against King Jarrett, but King Jarrett's got everybody in a freaking grip, like a chokehold with the Vivicantum, because there's no spindlings here. And we know from where we first visited Zavander with the little boy or the teenage boy who was following him around, or any of the spindlings, we understand that these are folks that are of a lower socioeconomic class who are kept from Vivicantum. And what we know here about this area is that King Jarrett is supplying the city with them. Therefore, there are no spindlings. So everybody has something that they're supposed to as terms of magical ability. And so the Colossians are not going to be successful in this area. And they realize that they're basically in kind of a safe haven for now so that Kaz can start to heal. So they decide to stay here for that bit of time, realizing that the Colossians can't really cause any problems and they're under a area that's of King Jarrett. So they decide to stay here for a little bit and try to get healed up from our previous adventures that we had in our last episode. So hopefully he's going to start to heal up and we can keep the journey going, because we have this side quest of them hopefully trying to reach Maveth and Zavander to get them back. That's what they're trying to go do eventually at some point.
Eventually, at some point. So,
Yeah.
chapter 59 is Maveth and the whole gang, Maveth, Alasia, their father, Zavander, and Corwin, they're looking at a map and they're like, what is the best way to get to the vein? Because the only person that's actually ever been there is their father. So they're trying to figure out the best way. And the way he's like, well, this way is through the woods and the other way is actually like haunted, talking about like there's creatures in this way, but this way actually is like ghosts. It's like, okay, well,
There's no
lesser of
good
two
way.
evils. No, there's no good way. And the way like Mavis like, well, I see ghosts, so great. And they decide to take the haunted path. Obviously, lesser of the evils. And their father is trying to give them some information because their father's the only person that's interacted with the Laverians in a more positive manner from going out there. And the Laverians do not like Saxon Crane. They don't like the people of the Red God, which we know because, I mean, remember in Anathema, Saxon Crane and his people would like enslave them, kill them, not good people. So their father obviously speaks Laverian, having had done work and trade and stuff over there. But he didn't leave in the best of terms with the Laverian priestess. We don't know why just yet, but it was just a rocky end. And then Ravox appears, and the way Corwin was like, the fuck is that? Like, are you sure? The entire time, he's like just so jumpy with Corwin had like risen up to be one of my more favorite characters in this book, just because in times of tension, he's just so funny. And I don't know, in the
Well,
audiobook,
he's the
he's
reason we
hilarious.
have our drink of the episode today. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we like him. Mm-hmm.
He is. He's a good comedic relief. And
Much
he's just
needed.
like, what is
Jesus.
that? Why? Why? And their father, which Alasia has been really frustrated with, their father's been like really struggling with accepting that magic is a thing. And Maveth even knows like he like continues to ignore things that exist. He's trying to rationalize whatever magic is happening to be something that's not magical. It's like, oh, that's fine. I'm just going to ignore the bird. The bird doesn't exist. It's okay.
Yeah, Raven's not there.
No,
Normal creature.
of
Doesn't
course.
exist. Totally fine.
And then Corwin's like, well, this is a long journey. So I actually know of a stable with 12 horses that Sackton Crane has been keeping. And Zavander is like, so 12 horses for the whole village? Clearly, he did not care about the village enough to have enough horses for all of them, which obviously, duh, Sackton Crane's a piece of shit. So
Yes. Thank
now
God he's
that,
dead.
but, so they have means to get to the mountains through the haunted pathway, at least. So, yeah.
Yes, or they might come across a river.
Maybe.
All right. So chapter 60, Zavander's point of view. So Zavander is still in the present timeline that we're in. Zavander and Corwin go to the stables and they find a trail of liquefied organs because of course they do. Why not? Corwin realizes all of a sudden that Zavander is responsible for this. And Zavander's like, you don't need to tell anybody. And Corwin's like, no, I don't need to tell anybody.
No, of course not.
I don't have to
Who would
say
think
anything
of
about
such a
this. I didn't see anything. What do you mean? And then there's only 4 horses left. Interesting. Why? So then Zavander befriends the moodiest of the 4, because of course he does. And that ends the chapter. And it's like, what the fuck? Okay.
It was
Okay.
an interesting side quest of it, like,
Yes.
this chapter
Very
being
specific. Yes. Like, I wonder if the editor's like, can we cut this? And she's like, no. We need
clear
this. This is
character
important.
development.
Yes.
We need the grumpy man to befriend the moody horse, and we need to know that Corwin will happily agree with whatever is going on, as long as it
he's like,
saves
I
him.
just don't want to die, and I want to get the fuck out of here. Which,
Yes.
honestly, respect, because I would want to stay there either. I'd be hightailing it to whatever the next side quest journey would be to get myself the hell out of that whole spider town. Like, get me out.
We find
what
out
are we doing?
that but Corwin's not selfish, and we
No,
see that.
no.
Like, he even, like, a lot of people in this case would try to be like more self-serving in their freedom, but he's not really. He's like a part of the group from this point on. Like, he's like, we're gonna stick it out, and he's not. Yeah, he doesn't just try to take advantage. So chapter 61's Mavid's perspective, still present time, and they're traveling along the Hadrona River. Drink of the episode.
Yeah. Cheers.
Raybox is flying high above, and Corwin's like telling him about the parasite he read about the water. And he tells Alasia, like, I could read the book to you. And she's like, no, I can read. And their father's like, what do you mean you can read? But their grandfather, I liked this section because their grandfather taught her how to read, since he found it ridiculous that women weren't allowed to read. So love that. The grandfather was already even though we didn't really interact at all with the grandfather. We knew he was a better character in their foundation.
We like him.
But yeah. Then a man approaches just out of nowhere, It's like, help, what? I see these videos all the time, and obviously for women's safety, I know if someone asks me for help, unfortunately, if they actually need help, they will not be getting help from me, just because I see too many videos where that's a trap. So, like in this instance, man approaches
but 90% of the time you're with your baby, so you're always going to mama bear that situation. Kid's gonna be first. There was a video of a guy that was like approaching this lady who was putting her child in the car and unloading her stuff at Costco. Did you see that one?
Was it the one where she's changing the diaper?
To her. No, must have been a different one. But she was unloading like all her stuff and she's yelling at him from across the parking lot as he's walking over. And she's like, do not continue walking towards me. I don't know you. Please do not walk towards me. Don't walk towards me. He keeps walking towards her. And he's like, yeah, I need help. And she's like, I need you to stay away from me. And so like, it's interesting because a bunch of the comments are like, oh, well, you don't know. Like maybe he really needed help. Like,
I'm not the one to help you.
Like, you're in a Costco parking lot. Like, go into the Costco. Like, why are you approaching a random woman you don't know in the Costco parking lot with her child? No. It's a no.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a question. Like, I fully
defended
her.
There's too much trafficking that happens. There are too many
not
awful
just
things
that, but you don't know if he's armed.
Or he's psychotic.
Who knows? Right.
Exactly.
Like, and you're the only one responsible for that little human that's in the car? Like, no, absolutely not.
Even if he was a totally normal person, no. Right. Yeah,
but also, like, a totally normal person doesn't run up to a woman with her small child and ask for help in the Costco parking lot. They go into the store.
Yep.
You don't, that's not a thing.
No, it's not. So this
Chapter
person is
61.
also psychotic. And
Yeah.
he basically, Zavander does the right thing and tells him to fuck off. And the way
Mm-hmm.
Mavis is like, no, don't. What if he actually needs
Mavis,
help?
God,
No,
girl.
they don't need
Get
help.
it together, Mavis.
So the man like draws a knife with like poison on it. So Zavander kills him. And
Yeah. I mean,
Mavis is
he should
like,
have just put him in the Hadrona River, with the parasites and called it a day. Yeah,
he could come back with a knife. No, he had to like
that's true.
actually kill him.
We had to get it
And
over with. Yeah.
Mavis, I don't get, this is one character flaw that I don't really understand with Mavis, is she really struggles when Zavander kills someone in front of her. And the way I'm like, girl, how many times have you dusted someone at this point?
Yeah,
Can
honestly. She's
we?
like bone
And
whipping
he
people
was
left
about
and right, and that's totally fine.
yeah, and he was about to kill them. So the way is she
Like
like
very clear
really
self-defense. Yeah.
yes. So I don't know. She hyper focuses on this. She's done this multiple times. It's a character flaw that I can't get behind at this point in time in the book. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're in chapter 61. Like, come on.
61.
But then she was like, what are we going to do with the body? Raybox takes care of it. Raybox eats it. So we love that for Raybox. He gets a snack.
It's like snack time.
Yeah. Guy's gone. They find an abandoned church, which if you know abandoned churches, that's where the spookies are. So, but they need
Yep.
shelter. So they go into the shelter with the spookies and their
And
father.
her dad's like, no.
No,
Yeah.
I saw a vision.
Yeah.
And there's dead rising. And he's like afraid of the ghost. And he's like, I'm not going to go in. The Laverians worship Morzana. And Mavis like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And then sees like a little girl in the church. And she's like, well, he was right. This place is haunted. But, it's just a little girl. It's fine. Never.
Also,
If you ever
Mavis like
see a
sees
little
dead
girl in
people,
the
so
corner. Yeah, exactly.
it's
But if
totally
you
fine.
ever see like The Shining, if you ever see a little girl, no.
Girl, The
In a
Ring.
church, no.
Oh, The Ring still to this day. You want to talk about millennial horror movies that messed us up? I was way too young to see The Ring, first of all. And
I
then
was
the
like
way
8 years old. I'm like, why am I
oh my
watching this?
God. And it was terrifying. And I was also a little
Yeah,
girl.
the way I don't like my TV, like sometimes, like if the TV's dark, I'll stare at it for a second. Like, there's something that's just me
right?
being
Because she comes
paranoid.
out of the freaking TV.
Yeah.
She comes out of the TV. I'm still not over it. All right. Chapter 62. We're back to your boy, Casimir. So Casimir's good. They're going to leave ASAP. He's feeling better. And they need to make a plan to get out of here, right? Because they want to make sure that their horses are still good and there needs to be like some kind of distraction that's created. So Kaz and Revezio decide like we're going to argue about a woman. We're going to fight with each other over who got this woman or whatever and make a big fuss. And so they do that and they find their horses tied to a tree and they're like, where's Dravian? So we're like, all right, we got to go find this guy. Turns out Lois has Dravian and she's demanding to know where all these bloodstones are. And Dravian's lying and he's like, oh, well, like Dolian's dead. We don't have any bloodstones. So remember Dolian, there's too many D names. So Dravian and Dolian. So Dolian is the one who's fled and was the one who was helping Zavander collect the bloodstones, wanted to do all this magic, all etc. And it was going to help Zavander be able to be free of his curse was the whole intent. So we finally start at the end of this chapter to understand why Lois is coming into this chapter and why they're there and Lois is there. It's not coincidence. This is totally on purpose. And we finally see the moment where Lois finds out that the information she's about to get for Zavander, which is that, he's like, yeah, I got this information about Zavander, but it was in exchange with the Latalis. And the exchange that they asked for was your death. So turn around, Kaz and Rivet are like, yep, time to claim you. And the way I was kind of upset that Zavander didn't get this kill.
Me too. Me too.
I was glad, obviously, but I was kind of upset that it wasn't Zavander's kill.
Mavis got to kill Sackton, and the way after I read this, I was like, are you kidding?
Yeah. She had him for 100 years and he doesn't end up getting the satisfaction of owning her death. But you know what? Maybe that's okay. We'll see.
Sure. I was mad. I was like, what the fuck? But anyways, chapter 63 is Mavis' perspective. Everyone was sleeping in the church, and Raybox is like hissing and scratching and pecking at the ground. So obviously there's something wrong with the ground. And then the girl scroll comes back and says the Vermish are coming. It's like, what the fuck are the Vermish? These are zombies, but not
Yeah,
like
the Vermish.
Plants
Yeah.
vs Zombies. These are like the ones that
No,
run at you and come out of the ground.
they're not
And
fun ones. Yeah.
no, they're not fun
Not a
ones. They
hocus
they just
pocus
keep on
zombie.
coming. No, no.
Yeah.
So
More
they
like a War
come.
of the Worlds type of problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how the girl dies, because Maveth realizes like, "Oh, half your body's gone. That's cool. That's great." And she's like, "Hey guys, we
Yes.
got to get out of here." But the Vermish are already there, and Raybox is like trying to fight them off. So this is like a big fight scene.
Yes.
Kind of like there's
This
a
was
lot of
kind of cool.
action. Yeah. So they're like at the top of a church, right? They're in the second floor. And all of a sudden Mavis is like, they're coming, and they're like crawling up the walls like crazy. So they have to like go downstairs, and the building's like crumbling around them because obviously it's a decaying church, and all now it has all like these bodies on it. Mavis figures out that they can only sense movement. They're fucking T-Rexes at this point in time. So they like try to hide, and obviously they need to figure out a plan to get out of there. And Zavander's like fighting off the creatures so the rest can go to safety. And like a creature like gets her father, and she's like, "No, father, no, Zavander, what's going on?" And she asks Morzana for help. And Morzana's like, "Use the bone whip on the ground."
Girl,
It's like,
get your bone whip. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. The
get
way
the
we're not just
ground going.
flinging
Yeah.
it around more,
Really.
but
I was
yeah,
like, Mavis, what are we doing? You're literally
this should be
like
natural
a
instinct.
goddess of
Death
death. Like, what
goddess.
are we literally? Like, we can control them. What are we
Mm-hmm.
doing?
Yep. And then Corbin's like, Alasia's acting weird. Like, so much is happening at one time. Like,
Poor
Alasia's
Corwin.
acting weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Zavander's like screaming as the church like crumbles around him. And then
And it's so
everything, and
weird
then
because you're
Mavis
so
passed
used to
out.
Zavander, and you're so used to Zavander being like the strongest. And in this
Mhm.
case, we're starting to see like the tides turn to where Mavis is starting to come into her power more here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And chapter 64 is Mavis' perspective. And she wakes up in a cage. And the way I was like, what the fuck? When I first read this, I was like, what do you mean you're in a cage? What the fuck?
Mhm.
What? Yes. She's in a coach, like, like a carriage, right? With the big wheels, just rolling along. And she's in this cage. And she gets brought to this cottage, and they eventually take her out. And we find out that this is where her family and the Liverian priestess were. So, like, they finally make it to, like, deep within the Liverian mountains where the vein is and all this stuff. And, like, they finally found, like, the people who live here, which are the people, Mavis people, basically. So we find out where they are. And the priestess is like, your girl Lace definitely caught it. She's got the ick. She's got the black thing. She's not doing well. We've got to
Mhm.
get this infection under control. And I'm like, all right, we've got to do an exorcism. They don't really call it that exact thing, but it's basically what they're going to do. They've got to pull it out of her. They're like, yeah, Zavander's blood, it can't help us, but he is alive. So, like, don't worry about him. He's here. Because she's like, what? Where is Zavander? Like, where's all these people? Like, who are you? What's going on? Because Mavis is so confused by what's happening. And so the priestess ends up telling Maveth, you need to give your blood because I'm going to give it to Elijah because you have blood of the goddess. And it's kind of horrifying because Elijah technically dies, sort of, in this moment. And you have to remember, like, I'm imagining this as like a little cabin thing. And Elijah's just laying down, and Maveth is there. She like gives the blood, and then Elijah like sort of pseudo dies, and then like all these spiders just start crawling out of her mouth. And these
The ravens
birds that
eat
are in
them.
like the rafters of this cabin thing come down and start eating them. And if we weren't sure if this was like in a horror realm before this, I mean, I don't think we were paying attention, but if we weren't, like, this is definitely horror
Uh-huh.
esque.
Yeah.
And so we're waiting for Elijah to like wake up because basically like a part of her died, which was this disease. And she wakes up and she's like, yeah, I don't think I was always with you guys, just so as you know. And they're like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, I don't think I was like of my body all of the time that I was with you. Which lends the question of like, well, who was? Who was taking over Elaine's body in this time? Which also begs the question, is there something that controls all of the spiders and the spider plague thing that's riddled this town?
Hmm.
Begs the question. So Maveth starts to talk to this priestess that just saved her sister, and they're waiting for Zavander to wake up because he's like over to the side, like passed the fuck out, not doing well. As we know, he hasn't had Vivicantum. We've had problems, not going well. And what she finds out overall is a lot. So, because this is her first experience, like with her people, and this priestess is kind of a leader of this community. Do we trust her? We don't know necessarily yet, but we know that we're going to get some more information. So, the Liverians and the Corvicae fled to escape the plague and slaughter in Etheria. So, we know that this plague is not new. The priestess, we find out, is her aunt, and that her mother was taken by the Red Men, which tracks. We heard this story before. They don't have blood magic, it's not a thing. And Maveth is Vasmora. Now, why is this important? Because book 3 is titled Vasmora. This is where we first get introduced to the word, but it's also known as Death Vessel for the Goddess. And we find out what Eldritch means in this case, which is ancient power of the goddess. So ancient power, meaning ancient power is Eldritch, and Vasmora, Maveth herself, is the vessel for this goddess, Morsana, which tracks because now we know why Maveth's been hearing Morsana's voice and all this. It also begs the question, is Maveth going to be of her own mind the whole time? Like, what does this mean for Maveth's storyline and what that means for Morsana and how the goddess will or will not use her in Vasmora? We don't really know just yet what that's going to look like. Protected, the Corvi, these are protected by Hallowins. And the Corvi are these like the zombie type things. They rise from the dead. Fun. So we find out Maveth is chosen by fate, and only another god could alter this fate. So Maveth's duty ultimately is to restore the Corvicae, which is her bloodline, because they need to be restored. Zavander, we find out, is a vessel of another god for Deimos. And we also knew this already, but confirmation that the spider creatures come from Pestilos. And we also know that Cadavros is the vehicle for Pestilos. So this is kind of an introduction or reintroduction into the gods of this world and bringing them up again in a way that Maveth can start to try to understand, even if it's not a great story. So now they're like, okay, well, we're going to cast you into the vein because we need to revive the Vivicantum vein. So we're gonna do that. And
Mhm.
we need to do that because now you're in Liberia and this is where all the Vivicantum lines are. And this group of people are basically like on the edge of the mountain crevice, sort of. It's not like a major crevice, but it's like areas where these veins that lead into where the Vivicantum are present here, and Mavis can like see those. So this is part of where we are in this area.
A big important aspect of this chapter, though, is the whole fate thing. Because Mavis, like, the fuck am I going to mate with your
Mm-hmm.
warriors? No. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially, she has to alter her own fate. And if she goes into this vein and it doesn't wake up, then she's free to do whatever she wants with Zavander and her life.
Right.
But if the vein does wake up, then essentially that's the goddess saying, like, hey, bloodline, that's your fate. So, they leave it up to the fates and the goddesses and whatnot. So chapter
And we see the
65
guy
is
that she was like gonna marry. He's so
which
bad
I'm not
looking.
mad at. No, I'm
No,
not mad at that. No,
he
not at
was like a
all.
good looking guy. But also
The
like
way
she
but
just
the way
got
they
here and you're already like trying to marry her off. And I'm like, what
no,
the
not
fuck?
marry her off. Let's be real. Because he says, let me offer you my seed. That is not marrying her off. That is
Well,
which,
yeah, it's for like
thank you
reproduction is
kindly,
really what
sir.
they want. Yeah. Appreciate the offer, but the barefoot and pregnant thing's not for me. It's basically what she's saying. She's like, pass. Yeah.
Which, chapter 65 is Zavander. Zavander's in the past, and he's shackled to Lois's bed because now he is
This
back in
poor
her
man.
clutches. And she's trying to force him into Caligoria, but he refuses to go. Essentially, he hasn't been able to slip back into Caligoria for some time. Theron suggests he uses Vivicantum to send Zavander into Caligoria, and Lois is like, great idea. Zavander was like, no, Theron, we shouldn't trust Theron, like trying to like negotiate. Theron tried to kill her twice, which Theron's like, no, I wouldn't do that. And Lois is like, you know what? I don't give a fuck because what he offered me, which is you, is way more than anything he's tried to do in the past. Because guess what? I'm still alive. So they force the Vivicantum down his throat. And then the next
Yes.
chapter, he's in
Chapter
Caligoria.
66. Yes, he wakes up in Caligoria. This is where you find out that Alastor was a spindling, meaning he was of magic but didn't have Vivicantum access. And this is where we get Alastor's like origin story, for lack of a better word. We also know that he has a sister in this piece, and that he was trying to mine in a sleeping vein, and he has this desire to become this high mage because he wants access to his own power. And he hates the fact that he's come from nothing, basically, and aspires to great heights kind of already off the bat. He resents the fact that he doesn't have access to his magic, and that he basically grew up in a shitty environment. And so he is watching Alistair in a memory or in a live event. We don't really know. But he's watching Alistair copy down this intricate glyph that's up on the wall. And he starts to hear a voice that wakes him up at this point.
So chapter 67 is Mabeth, and Zavander wakes up. So the way this is where the timelines between Caligoria and like present day kind of get fuzzy.
Mm.
You know, where's Pat like the person did Mabeth call him out of Caligoria at this point in time?
Right.
Because Mabeth was calling him out of Caligoria and then he wakes up. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is where they kind of get a little fuzzy. So Zavander wakes up. The priestess, her name is Erythania, and she had given him a small bit of Vivicantum. Too much would have been like toxic for him, so he has to ease back into having it.
He's back.
And Zavander noticed basically that everyone's speaking different languages, and Maveth has never Zavander like mentioned that she wasn't speaking the language she thought she was, and Maveth hasn't
Yeah.
really been able to understand that because and the Erythania explains like the goddess and the gods don't need to decipher language. Like language doesn't matter. So that's why you can understand basically anything except Mirian. So Primeria is a language that was developed so that people can talk without the gods knowing. So that's the only language that she hasn't been able to decipher. And that makes sense. The priestess showed the group essentially their sleeping quarters. Alasia and her father together. Corwin has found a Laverian woman, and we love that for Corwin.
Shocking.
Because Corwin's actually the reason why they were all rescued, because he like hightailed it the fuck out of that haunted church and ran to this little village of Laverians and was like,
we need help.
like,
Yeah.
but like motioning, because they don't speak the same language. And he eventually got them back over there. So Corwin, gold star for you. And good for you for finding a woman to have company with. And Maveth and Zavander together. Zavander doesn't like how Maveth has been chosen to restore the bloodline because, the whole touch her and die, she's mine thing. And she explains to him that she's going to prove his, the fates that are wrong and all that stuff. So they get a little bit of spicy time. But Alasia, being nosy, was
crazy.
like, Maveth, look at my dress. And she's like, okay, give me a minute.
Like,
and then
yeah.
Alasia's like lingering in the
right
door.
Now. Yeah, she's like, is there? You're like,
Yeah. So Maveth's like, can you go, please? She's like, oh, sorry. Like, were you about to just listen?
Awkward.
Yeah. Alasia needs to get some too, so she can like not listen in. Some from someone that's not her uncle, preferably.
Jesus, yeah. Chapter 68 is Maveth's perspective, and the restoring of the bloodline being on Maveth's shoulders is like, oh, she's gonna like get pregnant immediately tonight. We have to find her suitor who's going to do this. And Zavander's like, over my dead body. Absolutely not. So they're at the celebration, and Alasia's like, oh, hey, to two warriors, which good for her. Yes. So Laverians gave offerings to Maveth because she's the Vasmora or the vessel for Morsana. And their greatest hunter's like, hey, I'll get you pregnant. I'm right here. Why not? And she's like, what? No. So her father is grateful that Mavis is being admired and being treated like she always have been, and that she's with Savander, which is like such kind of an odd thing because your dad's there like witnessing you just like trying to get married off, and we're like, this is
But,
cool.
like, her dad's, like, also witnessed her being, like, beaten,
Yeah, oh
abused,
yeah,
and imprisoned. So she's
yeah,
like, "You finally belong." So I found it, like,
yeah,
kind of an endearing moment between them because her
yeah. And
life
he's
has been so
finally,
hard.
when her and Alasia too are like, her dad is finally maybe finding a place he can be safe, because we also know that Mavis and Zavander are gonna have to cross to go over the Umbervale at some point. Her dad is not magical. So the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, how is he gonna go over there with them? Like, how are
Yeah.
we gonna, he can't go to the castle. Like, how are we gonna make this happen? So Mavis is standing with her back against this vein, like in the mountain, and it has symbols drawn in chalk that are associated with Deimos. They're going to call on this god. And if he ultimately spares Mavis, she can choose her fate. And if not, she's just going to burn. Cool. It's great. So she starts to feel the vein hot on her back. And then the Laverians end up checking, and the rock turns out to be cold. Cool. Mavis is now going to be able to choose her own fate. So back in this sleeping quarters, we find out that Zavander and Mavis had already talked, and that Zavander was the one who heated the vein. And then he also spiked the warrior who was like, oh, yeah, I'll impregnate you, gave him a laxative.
Yeah,
So
that wasn't
ultimately,
petty,
we find
Xander.
out, no. So we find out, like, where'd you find this laxative, Zavander? Like, what the fuck? Okay. And
This
so,
whole
like,
conversation.
yeah. And so we find out that the whole thing was kind of like staged. So she buys Evander. So she is like, oh, yeah, it heated up and he like spared me. The god spared me. And so, this whole village ritual thing is like bypassed, and they kind of played this game on the village people to make this pass. And there's additional spicy time between Zavander and Mavith, which finally now he's got some power back to him because he's had his Vivicantum. He's back to being like the protective caretaker again, the one with all the tricks up his sleeve, and they have spicy times, and we get three, not two, but three
I
piercings
need to
this time.
know the distance between if we ever interview Kerri Lake, the one question I'm going to ask, what is the distance between the piercings? Because I need to know. I need to
This is the
know.
most pressing question. Oh, and
Oh,
this question. We need to know that one
yes.
too.
Yes. That
Okay.
one as
Glad
well.
we've got the big stuff covered. This is very important. Yeah.
Important.
Got
That
it.
is key. All right, so chapter 69 is our last chapter for this episode, and since Evander's perspective. So he wakes up to a sound. Him waking up to sounds is never good. Ever. So he wakes up to a sound and sees a shadow leave the room. Cool. Let's follow it. And there's the cloaked figure that's
Worse.
headed to the mountain. And it's Cadavros at the vein, and he finds out that he's actually in Caligoria, that his body
Mm-hmm.
is back there, still sleeping, and he's here. So the vein so
The way this
Cadavros
whole
is
time I'm
basically
like, this is
explaining,
bad. This is
yes,
bad. This is not good. Yeah, I'm like
no,
reading. I'm like, oh fuck, this is bad.
they're in the source of power. Essentially, Zavander brought Cadavros to the source of power that he's been
Oh,
searching for this
literally
entire time.
the entire time. Zavander brought him here because now he's where the vein is. Yeah,
Hmm.
Mavis
And
people.
yeah,
Yep.
so the vein is the source of Eldritch power. Initially, Cadavros wanted to revive the dead veins to provide Vivicantum to the Spitling. So he's like, what if I told you that this was supposed to be for good at first? Like, this was a good thing. Which, this sounds like every villain's story. Like,
Yeah,
they came
the
from
character arc.
poverty. They want
Yep.
to, give to the poor because that's what they wanted for themselves
Mm-hmm.
or when they were younger. And then they became evil. Here we are. So the king,
Power
he wanted to
corrupts.
give, yes, he wanted to give the Vicantum to the Spittlings. However, the king's greed, this is King Jarrett, his greed would never allow that to happen because he wanted to keep, even if they were to revive the veins. So gods are the only ones that can revive them. And here we have two gods right here, just chilling in the vein. Buried in the wall of the dead vein. Remember that past chapter
Yeah.
where Cadavros / Alistor was drawing the
On
glyph?
the
Yeah, that
rune.
was
Yep.
a curse of Pestilos, which is what Dorjan's soul is bound to. So all this is connecting. But the
Yes.
amulet can only be activated with Sable Fire, which is why Cadavros always needs Evander, because he's the one that possesses the Sable Fire. The goddess of
Yes.
foresight had prophesied the Umbervale to fall to bring disease and blight. And Cadavros, because this becomes italicized, so Cadavros literally speaks this prophecy. And then all of a sudden, the vein turns purple and comes to life. It's like, oh shit, that's not good. And then all of a sudden, Zavander's back at the temple, like way back at the temple, back in Foxglove. And Mavis try and like wake him up, and he follows a passage that leads to the vault where he locked Theron, and he was gone. I'm like, I fucking knew it. I knew Theron. Theron doesn't exist. Theron never existed. At this point in time, I'm like,
Yeah.
but he's like in
Yep.
Caligoria, and there's all these times he's been in Caligoria. Anytime Zavander was by himself, this bitch has been in Caligoria, and it hasn't
Yeah.
existed.
Nope.
Crazy.
And
Oh,
this is where it's starting to like really piece together. And we're going to
uh-huh.
close out this book in our next episode. And I'm really excited for that. So it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
pretty great. I'm ready for your thoughts on all of it at the end,
I have
Michelle,
thoughts.
because I feel like
I'm ready to
because
share the thoughts.
we're gonna go to chapter 83 next time. But right now, we're gonna do down the rabbit hole. And something pretty exciting happened, not in the bookish community, but like in the humanity community. Sure. Artemis 2 landed
Mm.
safely and they had their 10-day mission around the moon. But what does this have to do with bookish news or down the rabbit hole, you might ask? Well, let me tell you. So, one of our astronauts, Reed, our commander of the Artemis 2, when basically what I found out when doing some more research about this is that the astronauts, when they discover something, they have an opportunity, so should they choose, to submit a name of the something to the International Astronomical Union, which is like this group that determines official recognition. Okay. And so our commander of the Artemis 2, as they're going around the moon, they find like these new craters that need to have identification as they took their pictures and have identification and whatnot. This is where the romance / romantasy piece comes in, because if you're writing a space romantasy, and how do we like one up Commander Reed, who names the brightest spot and brightest crater that's a new identified object on the moon after his wife who passed away from cancer in 2020? He named it Carol, Carroll. And the way the bookish community was like, we will never recover from this. This is the most
My
romantic. They
heart.
cried. They did the video of them like pointing it out. You can see this on NASA's Instagram. They did like and on Artemis's one as well. They did the request because he has to submit a request, and he says, I would like to submit a request for the brightest spot that we've seen so far on the moon to be named Carol. And he says how he spells it, and he's like so choked up as he's trying to request this, as he's telling this story, because this is the his wife and the mother of his children, and she passed away, on this big, fight with cancer. And the way it was just devastating, I was wrecked from it, and I was like, this is the most beautiful, like, to the moon and back now has literal meaning.
Meaning, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just, anyhow. So the down the rabbit hole segment was basically to talk about real world situations and how they're so drawn upon in our writing. And there were a lot of quotes. There's a bunch of folks on TikTok and on Instagram who did posts about this, of like, how do you one up this? And then also like sci-fi romance, space romance is about to go through the roof, and like all this other stuff, because like so many people were just like so hooked on the fact that this was a real thing. And it was very touching. So I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. And I thought that the real life like romance piece, given that we talk so much about like romantasy and like different topics would be an interesting down the rabbit hole segment given the timing of when we're recording this episode.
Mhm. Well, I'm just like, I hope I don't know. I'm speechless because that is so freaking romantic, and
Right?
I love my husband so much. So much. He is not romantic. He is not a romantic person. He, like, can sprinkle some romance, like, do something sweet, but there's always, like, he's just sarcastic and little he is a character. So,
Bless his heart.
the way I'm like let me preface this by saying how much I love him. I know I will never get a crater named after me or anything like that. Yeah, yeah, that's I don't know. That's like out of a book, out of a movie,
Oh
or
yeah.
probably will
It's like
be
a
a
Nicholas
movie.
Sparks, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Somebody's buying the Netflix is like, I need the rights to this film.
I need the
Like
rights
they're gonna be
now.
making
Name.
the Artemis movie, like it's gonna happen.
Oh,
It's our first voyage to the moon since the 70s. It's the kickoff of successful launches, the next couple of launches, the next two launches by 2029, I believe it is. They're gonna start colonization of the moon,
yeah.
because they want it to be like the first stop in, galactic space living, eventually maybe
Right.
living on
I believe
Mars or having more
ultimately is
areas
Mars.
that's going to
Yeah.
happen in. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
know my husband's talked a lot about that. He's like, "What if what if you had a child on Mars?" I'm like, "Listen, I just push this one out. Can we not? Can I not think about that?" But I mean, that would be so, like, think about it, if you, like, got married on Mars and your story is told, like, you're literally, like, in of one of those romance books, that'd be so awesome, like, your life is literally a movie. But I don't know, I like my target. I don't like, I don't I don't think I'd wanna live on the moon or Mars. I
yeah,
like
no,
Target.
that's
I
fair.
like Starbucks. I like going to Publix and getting a pub sub. I don't
Uh-huh.
wanna live on hydro lettuce.
Yeah. So, well, this is fair, but like the plot ends with Commander Reed. So, Commander
Okay.
Reed, his wife passed away in 2020. His daughters are now 20 and 17 years old. So, at the time, his oldest was 15, his youngest was 12. His daughter, his wife passed away. And this man, as a single father, still is the commander of the Artemis, goes to the moon. Like, I feel like it's going to be like a Nicholas Sparks book slash something, because the
Mhm.
conversations that these two had to have had about his career projection and like raising the girls, and she had a 5-year battle with cancer. I mean, I, it's just heartbreaking and beautiful all at the same time, and it's poetic, and it's just so many beautiful things. And so it's like sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, and I feel like this is kind of one of those things that's just romantically one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. And I feel like humanity watching this and reading about it was like, God, we like that was just we're with you, Commander Reed. And it was just such a powerful thing. But I don't think this is the last that we're going to see of this. I do think that there was so much popularity surrounding this that maybe we are going to get some sci-fi books coming out of this. I don't know.
Mhm.
Well, time will tell, but I'm with you. I'm not trying to go live somewhere where I can't breathe, because Lord knows one day I just forget my helmet and I'm out there and that's it, plug has been pulled. So I can't be worried about things like that. That's not a plan for me.
Mhm.
Not happen.
Agreed.
And also, I don't know that by the time there's colonization that maybe we'll even be in an age group that would be considered,
Probably
frankly,
not.
because so many years later, maybe our kids, but not us. I don't think that's gonna
Mhm.
happen for our age group, but that's something we can talk
That's
about
fine.
in another segment. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I've accepted it. So, mystery Q&A. Let's switch it
Yeah.
up.
Now it's time for Mr. Q&A. These questions have not been shared with either of us prior to asking. So my question is to you, what is something about a book that has enraged you recently?
Oh, plot holes, hands down.
Okay.
Hands
Like
down.
what?
Like, I know it's a vibe read. We're not going to name titles, but if you tell me in the book multiple times that there is a village that cannot sustain itself, and that we have been working to try to get the village to sustain itself. And then you end the entire book, and we never find out if the village was able to sustain itself, and we're done. Like there's no more books. Why did you ever tell me that? I'm struggling. So plot holes for me, in editing, we've got to catch these things, y'all. The editors have got to start. We got to work some overtime. I don't know what needs to happen, but we can't just be having a village of people that we don't ever find out what happens to. This is a major loss. This is a no go. So this is something that like I just recently read a book, and while to be fair, the book wasn't, it's not going to be winning any specific literary awards, but we could at least do that. I feel like. So I was definitely.
It,
What about you?
it could. I don't know any of the awards, but it could. That like
Okay.
begs the question, the job of the editor. I wonder if the author does the editor just pick up grammar, or is the editor looking at plot? Because if the editor is just picking up like grammar nuances or whatever or misusage, then I still
Well,
find
there should be
grammar
somebody
issues, but
reading for plot holes. Like
that's
somebody
true.
should be reading for plot holes.
Yeah. But I think
What about you?
in some books, plot holes don't matter when there are lots of thingies. There are lots of there's a lot of
Body
copulation
parts.
happening.
Yes.
So, okay, plot holes. That's a big one. That's a big one. I would say my biggest issue, and it's gonna be is why are we I can't stand books that travel without a map. That pisses me off. I can't stand books that travel without a map. And there are some fantasy books that I vibe read that it's okay, but I still want a map to reference just in case.
Why do I feel like we're talking about the same book
We're talking
series,
about the same book. We are. We're talking about the same book.
which
And
may or may not have been mentioned earlier in the episode? So there's
we
that.
won't specifically name drop, but I need a map. If
Yeah, a
you're going
map
to
would
be
have been helpful.
traveling, if you're not going to just stay in the little village, if you
What
be
happened to the
traveling to here
village?
and there and have to way, yeah, we need
What
a
happened to
map.
the village?
I don't care if you hop
Can't.
and skip around. Like I need a
Yeah.
map. I need a fucking map.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Okay.
What's your question?
Okay. Yeah. So my question would be on your immediate TBR right now, what are you most excited to read?
Daggermouth. I still haven't read it.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
a good one.
She's the Central Florida author. She's like exploded. In like 4 months,
Yeah.
she's like exploded. So I'm very excited to read Daggermouth. My
I can't wait
immediate,
for you to read it.
immediate. Yeah.
I can't wait for you to read it. Yeah.
So
I'm
yeah,
really excited
it's
for you to
on
read it.
there. I'm finishing up Game On, which we are covering in 2 weeks. That
Sure.
will be
Not done
our
yet. I'm
episode. So I'm
excited.
finishing Game On, and then yeah, then I can get on Daggermouth.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think you're going to like it. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah. I have a lot on my TBR right now.
No.
I know you're totally shocked by that, Michelle. To answer your question, I'm also finishing Game On. That's the book I'm in currently, and I'm working to finish. And I'm very excited to talk to you about all my thoughts
Yes.
and talk about it in more detail. One of the books that is on my TBR that I'm really excited to read it's been all over Book Talk is We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark. It's been all over the place and it's on Kindle Unlimited, so naturally I picked it up. The other one I'm really excited about that I want to read is by Alice Feeney, and it's called My Husband's Wife. It's everywhere. It's a really big thriller right now. It has a whole bunch of good reviews on it. It's a quote totally addictive and psychological thriller, right up my alley. And Alice Feeney is our author of this, so New York Times bestselling author. But I'm very excited to read that. So I would say between those two, those are like, but I read a lot this year already. So I'm excited for those. If I had to pick two that I was like really excited for, I would pick those two. I also finished Blood and Roses, book one of Callie Hart's re release from her 2014 book series.
Mm-hmm.
I like that too. But yeah, that answers my two questions for you. So I think that wraps us up.
All right. Before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Yes. So one big thing is we had a ton of applicants for our ask that went out about 2 weeks ago. We are going to be fundamentally changing how Book Club After Dark works. And I think that that's probably going to be kind of scary for our regular listeners, but I want to be very clear that our all of our normal things that we incorporate in every episode, our drink of the episode, our mystery Q&A, or down the rabbit hole, those segments are going to remain the same, as well as coverage of our books. However, the reason we put this out there, we had a request for folks to apply to be interviewed on the show, and we had an incredible response where Michelle and I actually need to take a day off and sit down and really go through these and start responding and determining who would be a good fit for the show. And if there are any of you who by chance are listening now and didn't have a chance to apply, I encourage you to go to our website and fill that out. You can look at our social media as well. It's only at the time of the air of this episode, one day will have passed since that deadline, and that's okay. You can go ahead and apply. Beyond that, though, it is closed out, and we'll be getting back to you with more details of how Book Club After Dark is going to run from here. We're going to be laying that out soon, but we have one more section of Eldritch to wrap out so far this series coverage. And then, of course, like we said, we are going to be talking Game On by Nevessa Allen, which I'm really excited to talk about. So, yeah, more to come.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Eldritch or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art theories or anything bookish you'd like to share.
Yep, and you can also visit our website, like I said before, bookclubafterdark.co, to stay up to date on our cozy content and check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.